शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यत्परं ब्रह्म सर्वात्मा विश्वस्यायतनं महत् सूक्ष्मात् सूक्ष्मतरं नित्यं तत्त्वमेव त्वमेव तत् जाग्रत् स्वप्न सुषुप्त्यादि प्रपञ्चं यत् प्रकाशते तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा सर्वबन्धैः प्रमुच्यते। त्रिषु धामसु यद्भोग्यं भोक्ता भोगश्च यद्भवेत् तेभ्यो विलक्षणः साक्षी चिन्मात्रोऽहं सदाशिवः मय्येव सकलं जातं मयि सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितम् मयि सर्वं लयं याति तद्ब्रह्माद्वयमस्म्यहम् अणोरणीयानहमेव तद्वन्महानहं विश्वमहं विचित्रम् पुरातनोऽहं पुरुषोऽहमीशो हिरण्मयोऽहं शिवरूपमस्मि अपाणिपादोऽहमचिन्त्यशक्तिः पश्याम्यचक्षुः सशृणोम्यकर्णः अहं विजानामि विविक्तरूपो न चास्ति वेत्ता मम चित्सदाहम् वेदैरनेकैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् न पुण्यपापे मम नास्ति नाशो न जन्म देहेन्द्रियबुद्धिरस्ति न भूमिरापो न च वह्निरस्ति न चानिलो मेऽस्ति न चाम्बरं च एवं विदित्वा परमात्मरूपं गुहाशयं निष्कलमद्वितीयम् समस्तसाक्षिं सदसद्विहीनं प्रयाति शुद्धं परमात्मरूपम् यः शतरुद्रीयमधीते सोऽग्निपूतो भवति सुरापानात् पूतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पूतो भवति कृत्यात् पूतो भवति तस्मादविमुक्तमाश्रितो भवति अत्याश्रमी सर्वदा सकृद्वा जपेत् अनेन ज्ञानमाप्नोति संसारार्णवनाशनम् तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं कैवल्यं फलमश्नुते कैवल्यं फलमश्नुत इति।
I am with no hand and foot of inconceivable power. I see with no eye, I hear with no ear, I know well. I am of pure form and I am ever consciousness. None knows me. As I said, a similar mantra comes in Bhagavad Gita also. The words are different but the spirit is the same. I think Sarvendriya Gunabhasam Sarvendriya Vivarjitam Asaktam Sarvabhrachaiva Nirgunam Gunabhoktracha. Similar phrases of contradictions are found there. I am there everywhere, he says, and I am extremely detached, yet I enjoy all the gunas, like that it is said in the Bhagavad Gita. Here he says, I am without any hand or legs, yet I exhibit inconceivable power. And last class we concluded on what that inconceivable power is. Inconceivable power is infinite actually. Infinite is what is inconceivable. So that infinite, even within us, if we are able to see at any point of time, it is functioning. It is just that we are not able to recognize it. On the contrary, we believe ourselves to be finite. So it is that power which is infinite. It is the same power which is manifesting everywhere. Now this infinite power, usually the power is expressed through the limbs, which is through the hand and feet, but he says, I have no hand or feet. What does it mean? It means that Brahman does not have any organs of action, but the organs of action gain vitality because of the power of Brahman. That's all it means. Hands and feet particularly represent all movements also. Hands represent the movement within a place, and legs represent the movement from place to place. So this covers the entire movement of the universe. We see in all the beings also, animals and humans move from place to place. Plants move within a place. So the entire movement is covered by this term that it is of hand and feet. But he says, I don't have any hand or feet. That means the organs of action are not for Brahman. But all the hands and feet that are functioning everywhere, the entire movement that is happening in the universe, that movement is not possible without that power. So that power which is seated there, making everything get animated and move around in this fast fashion, that power is called as Brahman. That power is Achintya Shakti, he says. Achintya Shakti means inconceivable power. It is infinite power. Then he says, Pashyami achakshuhu sashrunomi akarnaha. Like organs of action, next is the organs of perception. I am seeing, but I don't have any eyes. I am hearing, but I don't have any ears. The same parallel thought we saw in Kena Upanishad in a different way. He says, I am the eye of the eye. That is the starting of Kena Upanishad. I am the ear of the ear. That means what? I am the actual subject that is inside, seeing through the instrument of eye, hearing through the instrument of ear. But per se, if you ask, does Brahman have eye or ear? No, it doesn't have. So what is it that is the actual subject that is seeing through you? Through the eyes, through the ears. These are also again indriyas. The outer equipment that we have is called as the golaya, which is the fleshy organ. But the power for this comes from the mind. Mind means the sense center, the sense organ. The sense organ is actually in the subtle body. But that sense organ also does not act by itself. You can only see something when you are conscious of that perception. So what is behind all experiences is the same consciousness. It is interesting to note that each and every sense organ has a particular area of operation, whether it is sight, whether it is sound. That is why you have each and every sense organ backed by that particular sense center. When your sense of smell is not functioning, you cannot just smell. But you can't say my eyes are functioning, let me smell through the eyes. It is not possible. Eyes have a very specific work which is only sight. Ears have a very specific work which is only hearing. Similarly, nose has that sense of smelling. The sense of smelling is operated through the nose. All these sense centers are different, but the very pure consciousness to which every sense center is finally yoked, it is the same pure consciousness. So in other words, there are no 5 different subjects operating through the 5 different sense organs, or a different subject who is operating through the mind or the intellect. It is that same consciousness within us which is exhibiting itself through these sense organs. So who is seeing actually? If you trace back and go and you say that finally I see, that I is the actual subject in you, which is the experiencer, which is the knower. So it is correct when he says Pashyami, I am seeing, but I don't have eyes. Brahman doesn't have eyes. Consciousness doesn't have eyes. Achakshuhu, without eyes I am seeing. Shrunomi, I am hearing. I hear, but I don't have any ear. So it's a very fabulous construction to understand that it is the subject in each and every being. Whoever is seeing, whatever is seeing, they are seeing. It is the same subject which is behind all the perceptions. So pashyami achakshuhu, shrunomi akarnaha. Yes.
We say he is the experiencer, that Brahman is the experiencer. But we also have a verse which says, I am apart from the experiencer, the experienced, or the experience. So that is just on a different level probably.
See, the mantra that probably you are referring to is Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi.
Yes.
It says, mantra 18 says, whatever in the three states is object of enjoyment, enjoyer and the enjoyment. Distinct from them, I am witness. Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi. That's what you are referring to. You are right. See, when we say the real experiencer in you, the real knower in you, the real seer in you is the self. But when you say I see, what are you referring to as I? What are you referring?
Me as Rajita,
As
the body.
As the individual. So therefore, as far as we are concerned, we identify ourselves with this individual. So the moment this individual comes, there are these threefold things that comes. This is the subject, object and the relationship, which is called as the experience. But even as that is going on, he says, Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi. I am different from all these things. I am just watching it. Like that it is. In fact, this is clarified in a very beautiful metaphor in the Mundaka Upanishad. He says, there are two birds sitting in the same tree. One bird is eating the fruits and lamenting. The other bird is just simply watching. It's a very, very beautiful metaphor. What is the tree?
Bird.
Body.
Your body is the tree. In that body there are two trees. Sayuja, Sakaya, he says. Both are of same nature. Both are of nature of consciousness. He is talking about the individual consciousness and the supreme consciousness. For practical purposes, we say Jivatma and Paramatma. It is a Jivatma which is doing all the actions. Therefore, it is eating all the fruits. Because it is getting all the fruits, it is eating all the fruits. When the fruits are okay, it's happy. When the fruits are sour, it is unhappy. So, it is lamenting. The other bird simply watches this. So in that sense, if you understand, the real seer is that only. The moment you go to that real seer state, it is all other experiences are
the experience, everything is
it lost. So it is a very uniform, homogeneous mass of consciousness only there. So it is from that standpoint he is saying this mantra here.
So when we talk about these chakshu, eyes and ears and other things, at the time when these subtle bodies and all are described, then at time we say that there is a particular devata for each organ of working. Now how does this devata fit in here?
No, devata doesn't fit in here because this mantra doesn't talk about that. That we dealt when we did in Tattvabodha. What it means is each and every organ of perception, which is the indriya, has a universal power connected to it. That's about all. So and that particular power, which is the Ati Devata of that particular organ, is the in other words, that Devata's power is also limited. It is able to, so whoever is the Adi Devata of I. So if you are able to say that sun is the Devata of I, what it means that it is taken as the universal I. Okay. Now, whatever you are seeing in this universe, it is not possible without the power of the sun. And whoever is, so there is a power of sight that is associated with all the individuals. That particular power, as I said, each and indriya has that particular power. That particular power is not operating by itself. It is operated by somebody who is the power behind it. That power is designated as a particular devata. Now this devata is not different from Brahman, but in Vedantic parlance it is taken as a anga of Brahman. So therefore, in that supreme Brahman, sun is the eye, Indra is the hand, Rudra is the ego. Like that, all the subtle body, all the parts of our system is designated in such a way. Therefore, if you are able to catch hold of that anga, you are not separate from that angi. Angi means whoever is the owner of that anga. So this hand, when I say, it is not different from me. Exactly like that in the cosmic form also, that particular devata is not different from that supreme Brahman. But its power is manifest in a particular way in this area only. So in that sense, if you look at it, it is the gods are limited ideals, limited goals, we say, in this form only. But all of them are not separate from that Supreme Brahman, which is the consciousness. So I hear without, I see without eyes, I hear without ears. Then he says, I know well, aham vijanami. So extending the same thought flow, he is saying that first he talked about I am the real power behind the organs of action. Then he said I am the power behind the organs of perception. Now he says I am the thinker in the intellect. I am the power behind all your subtle activities inside. So you can a little bit extend and accommodate both mind and intellect also here. It's a broader interpretation. That's what Swamiji has written in the commentary also. So what is the base of all thought? What is the base of all emotions? Morning when you get up, where does all this thought come from? Where does it all go into? There seems to be some source into which it is going and coming and going and coming. That is the Supreme Consciousness. Now when he says, I know well, aham vijanami, each and every one of us, when we go through the experience, it is getting registered in our system. That is what we recall later and call it as memory. How does this get registered? It is a consciousness that is aware of whatever is happening there. So, in other words, if there was not, even in practical terms, if you are not aware or conscious of any particular thing, if you are not, suppose in sleep you hit somebody and you did not know it, okay, that time your conditioned consciousness was not functioning, so you did not know. But what is interesting is after you get up from the sleep also you say, I know that I was sleeping, I knew I was sleeping. You know it. So there is something which is awake, which is registering all the experiences that you go through. Okay. Therefore, it is correct for that entity to say that I know well. I know well means whoever is conscious of whatever experience in the past, present and future, here and everywhere. Any organism, even a worm is conscious of its environment in the gutter. A chicken is conscious of its experiences. A blue whale or a lion or a giraffe or elephant or a bird, everything is experiencing whatever it is experiencing. What is backing all that experience? What is that knowledge that they are transacting? It is backed by the same consciousness. So anything that you say you know, it is backed by this consciousness. So it says here, I know well. I know well. So whoever says whatever he knows, it is backed by this knowledge only. But he says, I am Vivikta Rupaha. Vivikta Rupaha means of pure form. Vivikta means absolutely separate. Nothing else apart from it. Very pure. Nothing apart from Brahman is in Brahman. So therefore it is called as very pure. Vivikta Rupa also means it is all these equipments and other things that it is talking about. Just as you quoted mantra 18 where it says Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi. It is like that. All these equipments are there, but I am not dependent on all these things. It is not that, all these equipments are dependent on me. I am not dependent on all these things. So I am completely separate from all. So you can imagine when he says Rupaha, that's the term that has to be used. But Vivikta Rupaha means of a very pure form. It has no form at all as it is. So it's a very beautiful terminology here. Vivikta Rupaha. Mamachit Sadaham. Who am I then? I am that ultimate consciousness. Here he clearly gives the answer. Who am I? That Chit. I am that pure Chit. I am that pure consciousness. So, through the body, when the consciousness functions, you take the position of the perceiver and the actor. Through the mind, when the consciousness functions, you take the position of a feeler, one who feels the emotions. Through the intellect, when the consciousness operates, you take the position of a thinker. Or if you want, you can say contemplator also, if you want to distinguish between gross intellect and subtle intellect. So therefore, if you combine all these activities, each and every one of us are a hyphenated personality, as Swamiji says, as perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, contemplator. All these expressions are all completely different at the right hand side. But from the left hand side, you see that everything is nothing but connecting to the same subject of consciousness. So who am I actually? I am that pure consciousness who is functioning through this equipments, who is expressing as these varied personalities here. And then he says, Nachasti Veta. There is no knower of me. None can know me. None can know this consciousness as an object. That's all it means. A very beautiful shloka comes in Bhagavad Gita. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschitenam ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti shrutva pyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. Some people see me as wonder. Some people hear about it as wonder. Some people speak about it as wonder. Yet, what is this wonder? Nobody knows. Krishna says and it comes in the same portion, sort of similar portion in Gita. Verse 29 comes under the Atma Vidya, the indestructibility of the embodied, verses 11 to 20 of chapter 2. It is talking about Atman, and in its pure form it is talking about various shlokas are given there with various reasons and logic. Towards the end he says, this is wonder. What is wonder actually? It is there everywhere. People see me as wonder. How do we see it as wonder? The expression of the nature, expression of the world itself is a wonder only. That's why we say each and every aspect of the world you go through, it is wonder. In any form, you go through, as a chemist you go through, as a physicist you go through, as a biologist you go through, each and every mathematician you go through, it's wonder. And then some people hear of it as wonder. They all hear of this, the miracles, the God's creation and everything. Some people talk about this. They lecture. They can take lecture on Gita or Upanishad. It really doesn't matter. Finally what he says, nobody can understand this wonder. So therefore the very definition of wonder is that it cannot be understood. It is a miracle. It is that which is beyond our intellect. So when he says Nachasti Veta, it has to be understood as an objective being, as an objective experience. You cannot get hold of Brahman, neither through your sight, nor through your actions, nor through your emotions or intellect. You cannot catch it. Only we can get what is known as that Anubhuti. Anubhuti means a subjective experience where you become it. So, in simple terms, God cannot be seen, heard, perceived, felt or thought about or conceived. But the individual can only transform himself into that state of Godhood. That's all in simple words it means. This mantra, yeah.
This is being given by a teacher. So, and at the very original state, the teacher who has said this, he is saying this from the point of Brahman, and he's feeling the Brahman. He's experiencing the Brahman. Okay. Now, in the presence of such a person, the student, does he get some anubhuti, some experience? Because he's saying it cannot be known, but the teacher is experiencing it.
Right. In the presence of such a great personality, we do experience something elevated, surely from whatever level we are in. Let us say that person is there, sitting there, reveling in Brahman, who is the infinite self. He is at 100%. And we are all sitting under him, if we have that fortune. And let us say all of us are at different levels. Somebody is at 10%, somebody is at 20%, let's assume. From whatever position we are, we will be definitely elevated by his presence. It is in Sanskrit called as Sanidhya. Sanidhya means in the presence of such person. Why do we get such a great feeling when you go to Tirupati temple, even if the same Tirupati Balaji Murti can be in your house also, and it is no less, let us be clear, it is not, but you do get a different feeling there. Why it is so? Because of the presence of various sages and saints from time immemorial. No doubt the Murti's Pratishtha is there, Prana Pratishtha is given, and that is done in the beginning. But what adds to that aura of that environment is the visitations of all great sages and saints who have been there. They have not gone anywhere, they are all there only. Not only great sages and saints, even normal persons like us who go there in millions. When we go there, Are our thoughts not elevated? Or is our level of operation not a little different there? So this is what is getting retained in that atmosphere. Or put it this way, closer you go to that atmosphere, greater is the effect in that sense. So it works like that only. So therefore when you go there, you have a different feeling. When you are amidst the area like Bada Bazaar or something, it's a different feeling, where constantly if the thought is generally in samsar, in business, in shops and this and that, you will not get a very elevated feeling there. Like that it is. But it is also correct that this statement is made by, and who is the Guru in this Kaivalya Upanishads? Lord Brahma himself who is speaking. So as I said in this last few mantras, more than any explanation and understanding from intellectual angle, it has to be just felt and experienced. So it is true that the student definitely gets elevated as the master is explaining, and here he is talking from his own experience of the self. It does lift the student up to a great level. But then again, remember, as we studied in Kenopanishad, that explanation of the consciousness in the part 1 of Kenopanishad elevates the student to such a great height that he is, as though in a trance. But the master quickly says that what you are experiencing is something unique, but it's not the ultimate. Dabhramevapi nunam, he says, you know only very little. Very little in the sense, when you compare any finite experience and infinite, it is very little. So what is to be ascertained, you have to go a long way, he says. Making sure, not discouraging the student, to make sure that he goes in the right path and experiences it himself. Don't get satisfied in the spiritual path at any level till you hit that supreme. So therefore, this contentment and all other satiated feeling we must have with reference to the world, it's a virtue. How much money we want. You put a calculation and after a while you must feel content. How much degrees you want. How much of time with friends and relationships you want. Each and everything per se, you must feel content at some point of time. But never feel content with reference to I have achieved this much of spirituality, that's enough. No. There, as Swamiji again and again nowadays he says complacency. That complacency should not set in. There must be a very urge, a strong force that must push us towards always wanting to reach there. And it can be experienced definitely in the presence of this Mahatma. That is why when people went to Ramana Maharishi, who lived only as recently as last century, probably he did not even talk or lecture until his late stages of his life. But he just kept maunam, that's all. But many people's experience who are unconnected, who are foreigners, who have no direct connection with even our way of living, everybody felt a peace. Everybody felt their questions are answered. Everybody felt a very tranquil state of mind. How is that possible? It is that self in him which radiates. So if anybody, of course not in a class like this I am saying, if anybody asks this stupid question, what is it that he is doing service to the world? A bhakta or a jnani, that he being present is the greatest service. In his presence, the whole world gets peace. In his presence, the whole society gets peace. You can run here and there, gather all the other aspects of materiality. You can gather money, you can gather relationship, everything you can get. But ultimately, when you want peace, which is what ultimately you look forward to. When you look forward to money also, we look forward to peace through money. We look forward to peace through relationship. You look forward to peace through knowledge. But all this I don't get peace means we are still absolutely not satisfied. But in his presence, if nothing else is there also, this peace we experience. What more great service can he do? I mean, that is the greatest service. Therefore, the greatest service that anybody can do is just open up yourself and realize the self. That's all it is. Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. By self-study and reflection, when you go and attain self-realization, that person actually serves the world the most. Now, there are 3 words in English which refer to God, which are commonly used. Omniscient, Omnipotent, Omnipresent. Omniscient means all-knowing. Omnipotent means all-powerful. Omnipresent means all-pervading. Everywhere he is there. Maybe not directly, but 3 words in this mantra cover these 3 also. Vijanami, Aham Vijanami, omniscient, I know everything. omnipotent, that directly given, Achintya Shaktihi. Again, Vivikta Rupaha, you can connect it to omnipresent. Vivikta Rupaha means with no form. That means with no form means it's everywhere without any boundary as it is. This mantra is also very interesting. As I said, this mantra is commented as a jewel, a pendant in the jewel of the Kaivalya Upanishad. Kaivalya Upanishad is considered a jewel in our Shastras. And in this mantra is considered as a pendant. Now forget everything and look at this mantra even from a very direct understanding. It still makes a great sense. Infinite power without hand and foot. Just to first quote an example so that we relate to. We all know this episode in Mahabharata where Draupadi surrendered to Lord when she was being molested in the full sabha of Dhritarashtra, of Duryodhana and others. Everybody was helpless there. And she feebly tried with her own effort, it didn't work. Finally, who helped? Krishna helped. That is the story and that is what we believe. It is correct also. But did Krishna actually come there physically? Probably if he would have come, he would have finished both these 105 immediately that time. So we would not have got Gita at that time if he was there. Krishna was not there physically. So there are two things that are very clear in this episode. That Draupadi's voice was heard and some hands gave that continuous sari, the dress that was continuously coming. In fact, there's a beautiful symbolism behind it, but symbolism we will not go now to because this has to be experienced as it is. The moment we get into symbolism, sometimes we miss the beauty of it as it is. And if you don't believe in it as it is, there is no point just going only with symbolism. If you understand this, relish it, have that feeling, then go to symbolism, it adds value to it. And that symbolism only Swami Ram Tirtha can explain it that way. Okay, now when finally Draupadi, who could not defend herself by her own strength, when she called out to Govinda or Hari, at that time Krishna was in Dwaraka. How did he hear it? If you say it is Krishna, because this mantra also very clearly says Vivikta Rupaha. Vivikta Rupaha also we have to take into account when we take this mantra. Vivikta Rupaha means of pure form. But when you say Krishna, he has a form. He has this dark color and he has the pitambara, flute, all this peacock feather. All these things are characteristics of the form of Lord Krishna. She did call out to him only and the help came from him only. But what is the intention or attitude behind this calling is not that Krishna is Krishna with that form only. He is actually an all-pervading entity. That is the intention, that is the feeling, that is her belief, that is her Shraddha. That Shraddha could be triggered in a very extreme case, that is different. But with that Shraddha, when she called, only then this happened. So therefore, that self all-pervading entity is there everywhere and it is Achintya Shakti. It can give infinite saris. So vis-a-vis who has a finite Shakti? Dushasan had a finite Shakti. Because he fainted after a while. Who was much powerful than Draupadi. He fainted after a while. As he was pulling, she was rotating, but her rotation never stopped. Some Shakti was operating through her. And that Shakti was giving this continuous saris at that point of time. So, without hands or legs, I have this inconceivable power. It is very clearly, it can be understood. So you need not go into Avatara, Lord Krishna or something. There is some universal power. And that power has that power to do anything at that point of time. It is only that you need to invoke it like Draupadi. That is the point. How did she invoke? That is called as an absolute surrender. We talked about it in a few classes before. That when the finite merges itself into infinite, even in a temporary situation like this, in an episode like this, we see that when the individuality is no individuality, when the ego gets merged with that supreme takes over, as it were. Swami Ramtirtha says this. He says, resist not evil, just step aside and see how the supreme takes care of the evil. That's all he says. So it is actually functioning all the time, now also. And then he says, sees everything. Sees everything means what? Whatever action, wherever you do, there is somebody who is seeing it always. But you look above, is there any eyes watching? There's no eyes at all. But somebody is watching. Each and everything that is being watched. In our Puranic stories, we hear of Chitragupta. Chitragupta is the accountant of Lord Emma, who has all the ledgers of all the people. Nowhere does he commit any error. Each and every debit and credit is carefully noted there. After your lifetime is over, it is he who is going to submit the accounts, based on which Dharmaraja is Yama, he is going to see what has to be done. This is a fabulous construction, this word Chitragupta itself is. Who is Chitragupta? Chitragupta is a picturized as an accountant who takes care of all accounts. But Swami Ramtirtha says, think about this word Chitragupta. Chitra means picture. Gupta means hidden. Hidden. So there is a hidden picture. That means there is a hidden camera somewhere that is taking a flash of all the actions, not just all actions, all thoughts of each and every person. We think that nobody is seeing, but somebody is taking that picture. That picture presents itself in the right way at the right point. There is a proof. Like we have this now challans given on now only they should have done it long back, right? The traffic signals. They have a proof. The camera is capturing everything. Your car overspeed here, like that it is. So there is this. So through Chitragupta, you can say that I see everything. I don't have eyes, but I see everything. I hear without ears. Each and every one of us have experienced in our own way, and it is sure pramana in the lives of all great sages and saints. Whatever sincere prayers you say, it gets answered. He has heard it. Somebody has heard it. You yourself say, you yourself know it. If somebody has not heard it, even if you are not doing prayer or something, all the vibrations, all the noises that you make, even you don't tell others outside, somebody else is hearing. You may have one in the mind and speak something outside, others may not be able to hear it, but somebody is actually clearly hearing it. So you look at it this way, he actually functions in the world exactly like this. And then obviously, Aham Vijanami. Aham Vijanami means he knows everything. Again, in Mundaka Upanishad, it comes very beautifully. There are two words that are constantly used in Vedanta for the supreme state of Brahman, which is called as Sarvagnya and Sarvavit. In same mantra it comes in Mundaka. Yes, Sarvagnya, Sarvavit. He who is Sarvagnya and Sarvavit. Usually, when the same meaning is given there is a much emphasis there. There is a hidden message also there. Sarvagnya also means all-knower. Sarvavit also means all-knower. Sarvam Veti. He knows everything. Sarvagnya means, Jnam means knowledge. Sarvagnya means everywhere it's that. So what is the subtle difference between these two words? Both these words can be used interchangeably also, but there are two different interpretations or two different meanings that we can derive. When we say Sarvagnya, it means Sarvam Jnam. That means everything is consciousness. As we said just before, each and everything is just a manifestation of that supreme consciousness only. What you see as differentiation as matter here is not really matter and spirit. It is when you wake up to that reality, you understand whatever is manifest is only that pure consciousness, nothing else. Just as when you wake up from the dream, you understand that the entire dream was nothing but your own mind only, nothing else. In the dream there was both living beings and non-living beings. In dream you had a car also, and you had wife also, and you yourself also. And you had your thoughts and emotions also which you experienced. But when you wake up, all this merge into that one entity which is called as the mind. So you said that car is some dead matter. It is a it has no life in it. But on the other hand, the dream wife or a child could be a living matter where it has a spirit functioning in it. And then you say, I am different, my emotions and knowledge are all different. All these experiences we had within the dream. But when you wake up, all this merged into one. Exactly the same way it is said that what we now experience here is absolutely separate, different. That's what we experience. But only when we wake up to that realization, we understand that it is all manifestation of the same consciousness. So, Sarvajnam, that term has to be understood as Sarvam Jnam, that is, all is this knowledge, all is consciousness. Then what does all knower mean? Sarvam Veti means, literally means he knows everything. Literal meaning is that he who is that supreme entity, it is not what it means is, it is not that, okay, let me put a question to a self-realized person about something which happened in Argentina, whether he answers or not. It is not to be understood in that sense. Sarvajna, Sarvavit are all terms that are used for the Supreme Lord or Ishvara. What it means is, unless otherwise a person is aware of the totality as such, he will not be able to govern it in this manner, one. Second is with reference to giving the fruits of action to each and every individual. Vedanta attributes it to Ishvara because he who knows everything functioning in totality only can understand what karma everybody has done and what karma has to go to everybody. It is not that he, according to his will or choice, distributes karma like this. According to the law of karma, he makes sure that it functions. But why do we attribute it to him? Because if the karma is done by a conscious entity, which is individual, who has the right to do karma? It is the karta, who is the individual, who is the jiva who does the karma. Ma phaleshu. It is not that he has the right over the fruit of action. If I do the karma and if I only give the fruit of action for my action, then each and everybody will behave in their own way and they will want to give their own fruits of action. It will be a total chaos. But it doesn't happen like that. There is somebody who makes sure that each and every person, according to his karma, gets that right fruit. Sooner or later, depending on the circumstances and various other combination factors, it manifests perfectly without any error. We saw in the last class about that perfection in the functioning of law of causation. If this is functioning, that must be a conscious entity behind it. That conscious entity who just, you can say, Tebhyo Vilakshana Sakshi, he is a Sakshi looking at all these things. Looking at all these things, he knows everything. That's all it means. So Sarvajna and Sarvavit, it is there manifest in the universe as it is. So this mantra can be taken literally, and yet I am absolutely hidden in this universe, Vivikta Rupa. It is just that I am not visible. I am in the pure form. I am just not visible here. Mama Veta Nasti. So you take this mantra literally and take this explanation. It beautifully fits in. So one of the great mantras is mantra 21 here. I am with no hand and foot, of inconceivable power. I see with no eye. I hear with no ear. I know well. I am of pure form and I am ever consciousness. None knows me. We'll chant mantra 22 twice.
Vedairanekairahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham na punya pape mama nasti nasho na janma dehendriya buddhirasti Vedairanekairahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham na punya pape mama nasti nasho na janma dehendriya buddhirasti.
I alone am to be known through many Vedas. I am the maker of Vedanta and I alone the knower of Vedas. Merit and demerit are not for me, nor death, birth, body, senses, intellect. Actually, these mantras 21, 22 and 23 take you really out of the world. And you will see when it culminates in the next mantra, fabulous conclusion. 23rd mantra is the last. Last means last in the part 1 and Guru sort of finishes the Upanishad lecture. But then, like every Upanishad, there is a lingering feeling of the student for which he gives some practical tips. So, all the Upanishads, we saw Ishavasya culminating in the Upasana, Agnenaya Supata, that mantra. Kenopanishad also gives, he says, the Upanishad is over. And then the Shishya asks, sir, please teach me Upanishad. Because he is not ready to leave that seat having heard that great thing. So therefore he gives 2 more mantras to as a fillip for him to grow further, to move further. Like here, like that in this Upanishad also, last 2 mantras which is put in section 2, it is very practical as to what we have to do, and it caters to all of us from our level. But the culmination of the thought flow here ends in mantra 23, and 21, 22, 23 form a very great sequence of subtle thoughts. And as I said, these are to be understood, but these are to be felt also. Verbatim, this line, Vedair anaikair ahameva vedyo Vedanta krit Veda videva chaham, comes in Bhagavad Gita also. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, mantra 15. The first line of it comes as the second line of that mantra. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishtaha matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyaha Vedanta krit Veda videva chaham. Only one minor difference, otherwise it's the same thing. Okay. These are again mantras which are grand expressions from the mouth of the enlightened. That's how we have to see it. I alone am to be known through many Vedas. Literally, the essence of all the Vedas is ultimately understanding the Brahman only. Vedas are supposed to be voluminous texts. Many mantras are there. And these are classified into 4 divisions. You have the mantras, then you have the brahmanas, then you have the aranyaka, and then there is the Upanishad. Upanishad forms the end portion of Vedas, that is why it is called as Vedanta. If you consider the root of a tree on which it stands, the basic structure of the tree, that is the trunk and the root, that is the mantras. They are the mantras. They are the real revelation. And the leaves represent the brahmanas, or the various actions and the rituals that are recommended to be done. Mantras are mananatrayate. They are worthy of reflection, but more importantly, the mantras have a certain way of pronunciation, chanting, and it causes the vibration. That is also a very important aspect of the Vedas. That vibration sustains the universe as it is. So therefore, maintaining the swara of the Vedas in the same form is very important. When you apply the mantras into action and do the rituals, that portion is the brahmanas, which is also a bulky portion. So there are so many leaves in the tree. But then compared to the leaves, how many are flowers? That is Aranyaka. Aranyaka is a forest text sort of, where subjective worships are taken up by those who are little more mature. So they are not fully caught up in ritualistic and other worships. Whatever is the spirit of it, they are able to function with their subjective worships. And then not all flowers turn into fruits. Fruits are very less. So fruit is the ultimate effect of the tree, isn't it? Fruit is what we pluck from the tree and eat. That fruit is the Upanishad. So what is the ultimate fruit of Vedas means Vedanta only. It is the Upanishads only. The juice, which is the essence of the fruit, is nothing but the knowledge of Brahman. So, the whole ritualistic portion of Vedas and the Adhyayana of Veda that you do, every other worship that you do, Upasana you do, and finally you do Vedanta, you study, reflect, contemplate, meditate. All this finally culminates in one purpose, which is Vedair anaikair ahameva vedyaha. It is to understand that I ought to be known through the Vedas. It is not to get PhD in Vedas or Vedanta. It is not for any other purpose. To understand that I am the only person ultimately to be known. Vedair anaikair ahameva vedyaha. Vedyaha means he who is to be known, that which is to be known. So I am that. So I am the essence in all this Vedas. Now, just maybe a little different interpretation, but the essence is the same. Veda Anekair. We all know Vedas are 4 in number, right? That 4 codification also was much later, they say. We don't get into it, but we know that Vedas are 4 in number. But Vedair Anekair. Anekair means innumerable. Many. You can say Anekair means many. So what does he talk about Anekair Vedair? Anekair Vedair also can be taken as all knowledges. Veda also means knowledge. So very interesting thought here, that all knowledges ultimately culminate in the self only, provided you approach it in the liberal way, provided you approach it in the proper way. Any knowledge that you take in the world, can we say that any person knows the end of that knowledge? Can anybody claim that he has known the end of mathematics? Can anybody say he has known the end of history or beginning of history? End of geography? End of space and astronomy and astrology? Or you take a limited thing like the body, as the biology and medicinal sciences, can they claim that they have known the entire thing within the body itself? They are still doing research. They have not explored even the brain fully. What was the understanding of brain has completely changed and it's evolving. Can anybody say any aspect, philosophy, chemistry, you take any knowledge, nobody can know the end of any knowledge. It is not possible. And therefore, if you ask anybody, by studying maths, what are you finally going to achieve? This is not to discourage, please. Maths has to be taken for the sake of maths. Music has to be taken for the sake of music. But he will not be able to answer this question. Ultimate aim or end of the study, what it is, nobody will know probably. Nobody will know. Because we don't know when the subject itself will end. Only when it ends, you know what is the goal or purpose or something like that. But it seems to be an open-ended thing. You can go on, keep on reading, researching and going further and further. Then, if you completely get immersed into the subtlety of that subject and go by the nuances of it, go by the very, very small, each and every aspect of it, if you approach it in the right way is to take up the knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So when you say the purpose of education is, let us say, getting a job, that means you can say that I have found the end of the knowledge because I need to only learn this much, because this much is enough to apply here and that much is enough to get me a salary, and therefore that purpose of knowledge is served. That Swamiji says, or he uses the term of Cardinal Newman as servile education. Servile education is when you take up the knowledge for the sake of a utility purpose, utility motive. Utility is worldly utility, that's all it means. Any knowledge that you gain has utility, but what approach with which you gain knowledge? You don't gain knowledge for the sake of selling it for a few hours in a day to gain just to take care of the family or something. That you are devaluing the knowledge. Rather, you are devaluing yourself. But approach any knowledge for the sake of that knowledge. Try to understand that knowledge in its purest form. So when you get into the beauty of the knowledge, when you get into the understanding of the knowledge, when you delve deeper into that knowledge, like in an ocean, when he deeps down, he finds pearls. Like that, certain things gets revealed into you. And the more you delve deeper, more it really makes you stand aghast. So, when a person goes deep into that knowledge and he stands aghast, he gets that feeling of wow, that factor. In fact, if you say that you can say is the purpose of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to get that wow feeling. What is that? That is again this Ashcharya. When does this Ashcharya come? When you know at the end of the knowledge that your intellect cannot fathom the entirety of the knowledge. That there is something beyond all this. So that is why even in science, the greatest of scientists, beyond a point, they have that utter humility to say, I don't know what is beyond all these things. So any of this knowledge, when it is taken in its purest form, will ultimately only culminate in self-knowledge. Therefore, Swami Ramtirtha says, get into the spirit of self-knowledge first. Then you do all the exploration in the world, you will know exactly what message to convey. He gives the example of a barber in Punjab, where he comes from. He says the barber has limited activities, so in order to make up his time, he does other activities also of conveying the message from one village to other, something like that. So, this man says that tomorrow you have to meet my Sambandhi in the next village, and I have a message for him. You have to deliver it strictly, properly. He puts that. So he's very tensed. So tomorrow I have to start early and go early, and I have to do this job well. In that whole excitement, he doesn't even sleep properly. He wakes up very early in the morning, freshes himself up, and runs to the village, next village, to convey the message. So when he reaches that house, that person is asking, where are you coming from? I am coming from this person. What did he say? Oh, he asked me to convey the message. What is the message? Oh, I forgot to take. He says, that I forgot to take. Then he says, okay, I have got the message. This is my reply. So he says that he puts 2 logs of wood on his shoulder. This is my reply. Go and give it to him back. He says he carries that logs of wood, which is totally heavy, and brings it back to this person. What has happened actually? He has simply wasted his entire time and energy with all excitement, with all good intention. He says this in the context of the great vigor with which the scientists go all out exploring the universe, and there is no discouragement of the scientific temper and the explorative attitude that must be there. But he says, okay, you beyond Pluto, you have gone beyond our galaxy, you have gone beyond that, you have found out many suns and other things. Now, actually, are you trying to go towards the center or the source from which everything has come, or you don't know which direction, where you are going at all? You have to make a U-turn and come back with this heavy thing here only, he says. Instead, take this message. What you are searching is actually first within you. Take that message. Then go all out. You will find that expressing everywhere. It's a very beautiful way in which he sees. So therefore, in fact, since we are in this subject, just remind me, I will send a WhatsApp YouTube link in the WhatsApp. It's a short 3 videos by same person. He is giving a lecture with some PowerPoint slides. His name is Aravindan Neelakantan. I found him in the social media only. Quite a learned person. He is talking about how Indic way of systems and educational systems, when intaken properly, will help us in understanding all other social sciences. Very beautiful, and it requires some little bit concentration to hear and appreciate, but it's very nice. He has dealt it with reference to social sciences. He has dealt it with reference to physics and nuclear science and biology. All these 3. And in one of the episodes, he is talking about Lord Nataraja's symbolism used by 3 different scientists in 3 different areas altogether, but they are able to see this. So therefore, if you are able to understand Nataraja first, then I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the rishis in the past is talking about nuclear physics or something like that. He is not. That is a caveat, very clear. It is not that we were talking nuclear bomb and nuclear physics. If you are able to understand the darshanas of Hindu philosophy, which includes Buddhist and Jain philosophies, everything, then you will be able to relate to what the scientists present as paper, because they themselves have gained it through that revelation. So coming back to this mantra, what is the ultimate aim of all the knowledge? Ultimate aim of all the knowledge is only one thing. Vedaischa sarve ahameva vedyaha. I alone am to be known through all the knowledge. So whichever knowledge, let us only, you study Sanskrit, you study music, you study literature, just get into the spirit of the knowledge for the sake of gaining the knowledge, appreciating the beauty of the knowledge, and then just delve into it without any frills attached, without any suffix of it. What is the use of this knowledge? Never should that question come to you. for the sake and beauty of the knowledge, just get into it, then you yourself will, travel in this path only. So therefore, irrespective of whether we are all renunciate, understanding the essence of Upanishads, which will strike for a person who is a real renunciate, I would say at all levels, right from maybe the teenage, maybe from our post school or 12th standard onwards, if our children are exposed to this Brahma Vidya, exposed to this Upanishadic thoughts, still they may not understand the depth at which the master is saying, but it will go a long way even in their understanding of whatever subject they are pursuing, whatever career they are pursuing. Something at the back of the mind will be always there. We can derive from this, but because of the word anekair I said. But what he is talking about is, in the Vedas, all the various mantras, the ritualistic and the subjective worships culminating in the Vedanta, the essence of everything is what? It is only one thing, that you have to understand what the self is. Because the very purpose of why we are given this human birth is only that we are, no other creature has this ability or this capacity. We have got this capacity, so if we have to call ourselves different from the other creatures and we claim superiority, on what basis? It is on this basis. The basis is that we have this capacity to know the self, and any action or any thought, any experience that we undertake towards this end, then probably we have achieved what we are supposed to achieve in human life. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So in the verse 21, we are talking about explanation of Brahman in different ways. So the word Brahman, I'm just trying to understand the relationship of that word. Will it be correct to say that Brahman is coming from two words, Brahm and Man?
Devdutt Patnaik. Absolutely rubbish meaning it is. I am saying this is Devdutt Patnaik's meaning. Because Brihat Tamatvat Brahma is the very etymology or root. The root of Brahman comes from the word Brihat. Brihat means biggest, and biggest is an adjective. Usually when you say an adjective, it has to be followed by a noun, right? Biggest means what? Biggest man or biggest knowledge, something like that. But it is biggest, supreme, what? Supreme most. That means it is that which is the largest of the largest, transcendent of the transcendent. That is the root of the Brahman. Unfortunately, and this is what it is. See, when you take up a knowledge and you interpret it in your own way, you can say, out of your experience, you speak something, which is perfectly okay. This is what is I understand as yoga, this is what is I understand as... But you take Bhagavad Gita or something and you take up that original thing and study, it is better to follow a particular master or interpretation. You can't say, yes, interpretation is also your independence. But you can't change the very construction or root. So what Devdutt Patnaik has said, probably, because I heard it in a video, that it is Man. The actual word is Brahman is the root word. I forgot the Sanskrit name. When it is declining or declension, when the declension is in neuter gender, it is called as Brahma with a ending. That is why we say Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnav. I know Brahma comes. Everywhere Brahma comes. That Brahma is the neuter declension of the word Brahman, the root Brahman. Like Rama is a root. But you don't find the term Rama used in Sanskrit. They will use Ramaha. Ramaha is the word that is used. Ramaha is the masculine declension. Declension, the first person is Ramaha. Like that, this Brahma is the neuter declension. When it is masculine declension, it's Brahma. Brahma is Lord Brahma. So therefore, the term Brahman is not, has got nothing to do with Man as it is.
Or with Brahm for that matter.
Brahm means?
Brahm is doubt. Illusion.
That's Bha, fourth Bha. This is third Ba. So it has no connection. No. That's why Sanskrit we have to be very, very careful. One syllable here or there, it totally the thing goes. And particularly, I mean, if at all who should make a mistake in that is somebody from Tamil Nadu only, because they only don't have this third ba, fourth ba and all. All other languages in India has all these four things. You have ka, kha, ga, ga and all. It is just that in colloquial we don't know and we just mix up. When you say doodh, everybody says as doodh. It's the doodh is first is third da is there and second is fourth dha is there. Like it comes from the Sanskrit word dugdham. But nobody says dugdham and doodh. That's all. Doodh is it's pronounced like that only. So, but when you have that, probably it is better to use it in that proper way. Because that words itself will lead you to that proper root and meaning. And that way Sanskrit is very well constructed. It is all very difficult probably in the beginning only. We have not studied Sanskrit, but we know the approach of study. It's quite easy as you get into the spirit of it. We'll conclude with the bhajans here.
Poornam Adah, Poornamidam, Poornat Poornamudachyate, Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.